friend, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to make two different soups, very fall inspired soups, and we're going to make one really comfort meal. If you want to cook some really delicious food with me, then keep on watching. For today's dinner, we're going to be making a stuffed pepper soup together. I have some peppers from the garden, along with some onions from last year's garden, and some beautiful heirloom tomatoes from this year's garden. We're also going to be using some ground venison from last year, so let's get started. First, I will be adding some oil to my pan. Venison is a very lean meat. Using a Dutch oven today, I prefer a heavy bottomed pan when making soups like this. Go ahead and add our meat in. We'll let this rest for a couple minutes. It will get a nice crust on the bottom. You can go ahead and give this a mix now. Now I'm adding in half a cup of onion. This was in my freezer from last year's garden harvest. Add a mix. I'll be adding in about 6 garlic cloves. The recipe called for 2. I feel like you can measure garlic with your heart. So 6 cloves going in. Now the only real prep that I have to do today for this dinner is dicing up some tomatoes. We're gonna go ahead and dice up about 5 or 6 tomatoes. The recipe, I believe, calls for 14 ounces of undrained diced tomatoes. We will see how much this gets us, and we'll just use what we have. Look at how beautiful this heirloom tomato is. Look at how beautiful this heirloom tomato is. Did 2 different heirloom tomato plants. Look at that beauty. I don't care about tomato skins in my food. I don't mind the texture. I know some people do. Look at that. Beautiful. Like I was saying, I know some people do mind the texture. I think it breaks down just fine. I'll be leaving the skins on. We ate so many tomato sandwiches this past summer. I thought I was gonna turn it into a friggin' tomato. I end up only using 3 or 4 tomatoes. These tomatoes are pretty large. I'm not going to measure out the amount of tomatoes that I use. I know what a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes looks like. I'll just eyeball it. That's the beauty of cooking, right? Is you can adapt the recipes to what your family likes. We are now going to add in some Worcestershire sauce. A couple little shakes of that. And we're going to put in 6 cups of chicken or beef stock. I just use whatever I have on hand, and today is chicken stock. We are going to add in 1 liter of my homemade tomato sauce. We are also adding in our diced tomatoes. Not much for spices going into this. I'm going to add a generous amount of Italian seasoning. We'll just finish the bag. Again, I just measure with my heart. And some salt. A little bit of pepper. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this to a boil now. Once it comes to a boil, I will put it on a simmer. I'm probably gonna let it simmer for about 15-20 minutes. And the last thing I'm going to add will be the peppers from my garden. I'm going to add 2 packages of peppers. The reason I'm waiting to add the peppers is because these were previously frozen. The texture of them is quite soft. I don't want to turn them into mush. That's the reason that we're going to wait to add them. Looking really good so far. Now that our soup has come to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. I'm going to go ahead and add my bell peppers into my pot. This is a mixture of green and red bell pepper. I would estimate that's about 1.5 cups. smells so good. We are at the brim here. Look at the gorgeous color of that soup though. While the soup is cooking, I'm gonna do a quick cleanup on my kitchen. Also behind me, I have some long grain white rice soaking. I'm gonna end up cooking the rice separately. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to add the rice into the soup or keep it separate. We will decide once the soup is done cooking. I've got the rice on. The soup is simmering right now. We're just trying to get the vegetables a little softer. The rice is finished cooking. I'm gonna take that off the heat. I'm also going to turn off the heat to the soup. Let's go ahead and give it a taste test. Delicious. So simple. Super flavorful. I have decided that I'm going to keep the rice separate just because I know we're gonna have leftovers with this soup, and I feel if I add all of the rice in right now that it's going to soak up a lot of the liquid. I think a better idea would be to add the rice into the soup as we want to serve it. Can't wait to have this meal in a couple hours, and we'll see you next time we cook dinner. I added some toppings. I did cheese, a dollop of sour cream, and fresh herbs. What a great dinner. For tonight's dinner, we are doing a homemade chicken parmesan. We are going to be breading our own cutlets and frying them also, and we are also going to be whipping up a really easy homemade marinara sauce. Okay, I'm not gonna lie about this. I am not the best at deboning meat. I don't even know where to start. Usually my husband does this. Let's find a bone and we'll just start cutting. Judging of my knife skills, okay? I think these are a little too thick for my family personally. I am going to fillet this in half lengthwise, not in half like this, like we're going to, you get it. I don't need to explain it further. Okay. So I like to just put a little bit of light pressure and run my knife through it all the way until we get to the other end. Perfect. That piece is good. This piece, well, looks like a heart. That's okay. We can always fold it over like that, and when we go to bread it later, it will look totally fine. This one I'm kind of butchering. Okay. I feel like I'm just turning this thing around and around and around. Murdering it. Okay. Perfection. Look at that. Slap it down. There we have it. Our chicken is deboned. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a breading station for us. We're gonna do chicken, flour dredge, egg, panko. Away she goes on the pan to cook later. We are going, before we touch the chicken, because every time you touch the chicken, you gotta go wash your hands. We're gonna put a little bit of flour on our plate here. I'd say that's about good. Grab some eggs. Start with 2 eggs. I'm not a fancy egg cracker. I don't know how to do the one-handed crack yet. Have plain panko breadcrumbs. We are going to season them, of course. I am gonna start with, I don't know, that looks like a cup. I don't really measure things when I cook. I think I've said that before. Bomb seasoning, get this. Couple, I don't know, teaspoons of that. This has salt in it, but I always add salt. Do a little bit of a little pinch. Do some pepper and Italian seasoning. My tried and true Costco Parmesan cheese. It's the size of my head. Let's add like a 1/4 cup. Okay. I'm gonna spread this out and season it with salt and pepper real quick. You know what? Let's put a little pepper in the flour too, for good measure. Why not, right? Let's toss it in. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, make sure it's nice and coated with the flour. Dip it in your egg. Your hands are gonna get real crusty. I don't usually do a wet hand and a dry hand. And into the panko. Oh boy, already making a mess. Okay, let's just keep doing it. I went ahead and grabbed some basil and parsley from my herb garden out front on my front porch. Do we want to take a moment for this absolutely stunning lighting? Like, my herbs are glowing. I am here for it. This is like picture perfect. Let's start making our marinara sauce for our chicken parm. Garlic, tomato paste, a liter of tomato sauce from my pantry downstairs, 1 onion, salt, pepper. I do like to add a little pinch of red pepper flakes, Italian style seasoning, and we'll toss in a bay leaf. Let's get started. First off, we are going to dice up an onion. And then I will get my pot going. I'll probably put it on like a medium heat with some olive oil. You know what? I'm gonna turn that on right now, actually. We'll get going with the garlic now. I got about 5 cloves here. I love garlic. Use whatever you have on hand. You know, some days with whatever I'm cooking, I just add garlic powder in because, you know, this is a task to peel and chop your garlic. Mind you, it does taste a lot better in the end result of the dish, but I get it. Sometimes I don't want to do it, right? Pick your battles. And some days I don't want to battle with peeling garlic. I wish I just used garlic powder, but I'm doing it for you guys, okay? Garlic, okay, there we go. Let's get it into the pot. Make sure it's on a medium heat because the last thing you want to do is burn your garlic. It'll turn the whole dish bitter, and what a waste of food that would be. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add my herbs in. I picked a lot of basil. I don't think I'm gonna use all of this. So pretty though, eh? Oh, look at that sunlight. She's a beauty. I love having fresh herbs on hand. I don't love using the stems. What I like to do for my herbs is I squish them all in a bunch and then I roll them up real tight. And get your big knife and just do a chop. Doesn't gotta be perfect. Just a nice rough chop. They're gonna break down when you put them in the pot anyways. Watch your fingers. Okie dokie. Let's get those in. Okay, now we're done with chopping. Let's do a quick little cleanup. That's pretty, eh? I've got my liter of marinara sauce that I made from the garden last year. We'll open that up. And pour that in. A little dash of red pepper flakes. Not too much because my son will be enjoying this too. Probably about a 1/4 teaspoon. I add Italian seasoning into literally everything. Measure with your heart. We'll let this simmer for 20-30 minutes and we'll come back and see what the consistency is like, and if we need to add some tomato paste, we'll add it at that point. This has been simmering for about 20 minutes. I am gonna go ahead and add probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons of tomato paste in. I just want it a bit thicker for my taste. We'll drop a couple tablespoons in. I don't want it watery because I don't want it to make my breading mushy on my chicken. I also now have a pot of water boiling for my spaghetti. What kind of pasta do you guys prefer? It's not actually spaghetti, it's spaghettini. It's a thinner noodle. That's what my family prefers. Oh yeah, this looks way better. She's thick now, look at that. Okay, we've got a lot of moving parts going on right now. I took my sauce off. It's over there cooling down. I've got my water on to boil for my pasta. I just got a pan and filled it up with whatever choice of oil you want. It's about, I'd say, 1 inch thick. We're gonna turn this on and we're gonna heat it up until it starts to shimmer. I'm gonna grab the chicken out of the fridge. We fry the chicken, we're going to put it in a baking dish and we're gonna bake it in the oven. We're only gonna fry the chicken for about, I'd say, 2 minutes aside. It'll finish cooking in the oven. So we'll wait for this to heat up. At this point also, we're gonna preheat the oven to 450 degrees. I think our oil is ready. If you just take a flick of water, it should bubble, and that's when you know your oil is hot enough. I think we're only gonna be able to fit 2 in at a time. Yeah, we're only gonna fit 2 in. That's okay. So be mindful of the time you drop them in because you don't want to overcook them. So the oil should be shimmering just like that. I'm gonna flip them, I think. Oh, this was one that was kind of. Yeah, it's getting nice and golden. Delicious! Yeah! Look at the golden color on that. Gorgeous! Also, if you prefer your chicken cutlets thinner, by all means, go ahead and pound them out. I just had no intention of wanting to do that today. Oh, look at that one. Hanging on for dear life. These are gorgeous. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to top our chicken breast with about 2 tablespoons of sauce. Okay, that looks good to me. And then we've got some mozzarella cheese here. We're gonna go ahead and sprinkle on top. Okay, and then we're gonna sprinkle this with a little Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna grab that from the fridge. A little razzle dazzle. This is gonna go into the oven, 450 degrees for about 20 minutes. If I can say one thing about this meal, it would be this is takeout but done at home. Everyone in my family really enjoyed this, highly recommend it. For tonight's dinner, we are doing a crock pot butternut squash soup. I went ahead and I grabbed a bowl for my compost. This is a beautiful squash from my garden. I would say, give or take, it's about 2 to 3 pounds. So we've got all our ingredients here. The recipe called for a Granny Smith apple. I ended up grabbing a Gala apple. That's just what I have on hand. We're gonna get started chopping up our vegetables for the soup. I've got a Spanish onion here. We're gonna give it a rough chop. Along with chopping up the onion, we're gonna go ahead and start chopping up our apple. The recipe did call for a Granny Smith apple. I'm just using what I have, which is a Gala apple. So we'll go ahead and we'll give that a rough chop right now too. I've got 1 lone carrot here.
This will add some sweetness and complexity to the soup's flavor. I think that's what the apple does too. I've only ever made this soup once and I don't remember putting apple or carrot in, but I can tell you the end result is very delicious. Now we're gonna go ahead and cut up this squash. Does anybody have a good way to cut the squash? Because I struggle every single time. I don't know if it's my knife or my skills. And does anyone have any recommendations on how to peel it? I end up using just a potato peeler, and you'll see I struggled pretty hard with it. The last couple pieces of skin here, they just didn't want to come off. I think next time I would maybe try and peel it with a knife. I'm not entirely sure. The skin isn't super thick. I think it's just the shape of the squash that makes it so difficult to peel. We're gonna go ahead and start slicing the squash in half. As you can see, I am struggling. It's very awkward. You're also gonna wanna scoop the seeds out right now. We are gonna go ahead and start slicing the squash into pieces. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and do a very rough chop on it. At this point, I soon realized that I was running out of space on my cutting board. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the carrots, onion, and apple right into the slow cooker. Like I said, we're gonna do a pretty rough chop on the rest of the squash here. And we're gonna go ahead and toss that into the slow cooker with all of the other vegetables as well. I had intentions of using fresh garlic, as you can see that bulb sitting on my cutting board there, but then it dawned upon me that I have frozen garlic in the freezer, so why not make my life easier since this soup is going to be blended up anyways. I've got some fresh herbs from my garden here. I believe I picked parsley, rosemary, and thyme. I'm just taking I always get rosemary and thyme mixed up. So if someone can let me know which herb I'm currently dealing with right now. Anyways, I'm taking it off the stems because the stems are very woody and I don't think they're gonna break down in the soup. This is what we're looking like now. Look at all those beautiful colors. We've got our garlic, our herbs, our squash, and these are the seasonings that we're going to pop in right now. Before I add the seasonings, I am going to add in 2 cups of water. I also add just a little drizzle of olive oil. And then we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of vegetable stock. This is cayenne pepper that we're adding. Add a very small amount in. I would say I add about 1/8 of a teaspoon. I will say, even 1/8 of a teaspoon, it did add quite a bit of kick, especially at the end of the soup when it's mellowing in your mouth, if that makes sense. This is ground nutmeg. Again, this is a very powerful spice. We're adding about 1/8 of a teaspoon as well. The recipe did call for fresh sage. I don't have any in my garden this year. This is just powdered sage, dry sage, whatever you want to call it. I added probably about 1 teaspoon. Now we're going to cook this on low 4 to 6 hours. This is about at the 5-hour mark, so I go ahead and I grab my immersion blender and we're going to blend that up until there's no large chunks anymore. The last ingredient you add is 1/2 cup of heavy cream. This soup turned out so good. I ended up pairing it with just some basic grilled cheese, and this was the perfect fall cozy dinner idea. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I hope it gave you just a little bit of inspiration on what you might want to cook next for dinner. I hope to see you guys in my next video. Bye, friend.